Ladies and gentlemen, you are all so much welcome to this very special event. And I'm PJ, Per-Jörgen Persson, general partner with North Zone. We were supposed to actually be in our office tonight and boast about our phenomenal position in the tech ecosystem, but you are so many, so we there's no way you would fit into our office. So without further ado, I just want to make sure that we get as much time with these gentlemen as possible, because this is a point in time that I, during my 30 years as a VC in Europe and in the US, I've never seen anything like it. This is absolutely astounding, the level of innovation, growth, and talent that is being sort of converging in this industry. And what is even more rewarding for me, I think, as a Swedish citizen, is that this is happening in Stockholm again. I was so fortunate to be a part of the Spotify story with the investments back in 2007, 2008, and so on and so forth, which gave birth to an entirely new generation of entrepreneurship. But this is much bigger. So, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Per-Jörgen, and thank you for everyone for showing up here. As PJ said, we've had insane interest in this event. We were supposed to be 30 people in their office. We ended up getting over 500 applications to join this event, so we scaled it up a bit to this much larger. I am Oliver, co-founder and CTO at Tandem Health. The shortest description of what we do is that we help clinicians focus on care. It is probably one of the biggest problems our society faces today. Clinicians spend about half their time doing administration, and it's time they would much rather spend seeing patients, and we're helping solve this. That's enough about me. So with me on stage, I have Peter Welinder, VP of Product at OpenAI. You were leading the team developing ChatGPT, DALL-E, amongst many other things. Peter, could you tell us a bit more about, and also I have Anton, not the one to forget, co-founder of Lovable and previous CTO at Pict. Let's start off with you, Peter. I'd love to hear a bit about your background. What brought you to OpenAI? What is your role now?
Well, thanks for having us. Super excited to see so many people here. Let's see. I grew up in Sweden, down south in Skåne. I then went to England for college and then eventually to the US for grad school. I started a startup out of grad school, eventually sold it, and kind of got back to my roots to do research and joined OpenAI back in 2016 as a research scientist. It was a very small little lab at the time, research lab. I think we were maybe like 20 or so people, but with a very ambitious mission of building AGI, which at the time felt pretty crazy. But like once you started thinking about it, it was like, why am I even thinking about doing anything else? This is like the coolest thing you could work on. And I joined actually working on robotics. I thought at the time that it seems like a little bit of an easier problem to solve to have AI control robots than to kind of think and write and so on. And obviously I was completely wrong. It turned out to be the other way around. And we still don't have robots really doing anything useful, but we now have LLMs kind of doing the things of PhD students and I don't know, like programming Olympiads and all these things. It's pretty crazy, right? But I was doing research for a couple of years. And then when we got our first language model that really kind of worked, which was GPT-3, we decided that it's time to do a product. And we thought about all the different products we could do. We could do like, maybe we should do some kind of assistant, maybe we should do some kind of writing tool and so on. And the truth is, we couldn't figure out what to build. So we had decided, let's just build an API and let everybody else figure out what to build on our API instead. At some point, it was more like somebody asked me, well, Peter, you've done a startup before. Why don't you help figure out how we build a product? So that became my job at OpenAI for the past 5 years now. And so we built a number of products. We built our API, then we built DALL-E, and then we built ChatGPT. As kind of the team grew, I started missing research again, so I went back to do more research, figuring out like what are the next things that we should build at OpenAI. Because the way we think about it is like we need to pivot our business all the time because the capabilities of these models keep on changing. So then some of the work that's come out of that has been things like operator now agents, which we released yesterday, and codecs and so on. And now most lately, I switched gears again to work on this. We acquired this company with Johnny Ive, which is working on building a new generation of devices based on AI. So that's what I'm focusing on these days.
Fantastic. I mean, I think it's hard to find a more interesting background than that. And of course, you've been part of launching some of the kind of generation-defining products that we have today. When you were building ChatGPT initially, did you know it was going to be this watershed moment?
No, we had no idea. Like, if there's one thing we've learned at OpenAI, it's like we're terrible. Okay, we're terrible at two things. Naming things is definitely the first one, and the second one is like predicting whether a product would work out or not. And so our philosophy has always been like, let's just try the thing. I remember with ChatGPT, we at the time, this was like late 2022. We had an internal version of it, and we had two versions. One which was built on GPT 3.5, and one was built on GPT 4. And we were still working through some of the GPT 4 stuff, like figuring out making it ready for release. And so we started using both of these ChatGPT versions internally. And once we had tried like GPT 4, we were like, GPT 3.5 is crap. Nobody will use this. Like, this is terrible. It doesn't work. But everybody will probably use it once we get to GPT 4. But we got so nervous at some point, it's sort of like we couldn't make up our minds. Like, we need to get something out there. And we put GPT 3.5. And I remember, I think the night before, like Ilya Sutskever, who was our chief scientist at the time, sent a message to me and a few other people, and he was like, "This is never going to work. This is terrible. This is probably going to be an embarrassment. But let's just try it." And it just kind of exploded. And it was a complete surprise. Like we within like 2 days, we ran out of GPUs. That Christmas was not a real Christmas. I think everyone were just working around the clock. Things just kept on breaking and breaking and breaking. And we had because we hadn't planned for anything. We just didn't expect it. We always thought that GPT-4 would be the moment, but it actually happened before that. So we're not good at that, predicting these things.
Oh, I mean, very, very cool to hear. And are you in charge of naming? Is that your baby?
All the good names come from Sam. All the bad names come from me.
Great. I want to move over to Anton as well. I'd love to hear more about your background. How did you become the founder of Lovable?
Yes, hello Oliver, great to meet you. So we used to work together at the last company we were at. It was a big pleasure. Like on my background, I did the physics, and then obviously 2014, like a lot of AI. If you know what's interesting in the world, it's obviously AI. It's going to be a big thing. And then I've been super lucky to work at some of the very interesting startups here in Stockholm. So I was the first person at a company called Sana Labs. Maybe someone here is from Sana Labs? No. And then like joined as a co-founder and CTO of Depict AI, where we did AI product recommendations. And like what I've always done since a very early age is to build things. And when GPT-4 came out, actually, I was like, whoa, this is going to change how we build software. It's going to become absolutely transformational. So I put together this simple CLI tool, which is like similar to Claude Code, but it was 2.5 years ago. I like put it on GitHub, and then I posted it on Twitter and went to bed. And then woke up, and it was like had completely exploded virally. And thought about, okay, this is a pretty interesting tool. Like, it doesn't really work yet. Like many AI prototypes, it like looks really, really cool. What should you do from this thing? And then I thought about it for some time, and then I reached out to Fabian. I think Fabian is here somewhere, my co-founder at Lovable, and I was like, what you should do is to not help developers be more productive. You should help everyone who has been starving for engineering capacity to build directly by talking to AI. And that's what we set out to build, and that's Lovable now. And we launched it in late November. And it's been a wild ride since, where we was blocked by GitHub because it was scaling too fast, and reached, I think we grew to $75 million in ARR faster than all startups I've heard about. So that's very, very fun. And we have a team here in Stockholm that's absolutely amazing to work with. Yeah, now we're just having very fun building products with AI, like you guys.
Very much so. All right, thank you very much, Anton. And it was a pleasure to work with you as well. So moving on to our first question, it's so clear that LLMs are going to fundamentally change how we interact with our products. What do you think is the future of human-computer interaction? How will we be interacting with computer systems a few years down the line?
Yeah, this is such an interesting question. The way I think about it a little bit is that if you think about the interfaces we use today, there have been sort of two big revolutions in the past 40 years or so. The first one was the graphical user interface, with a screen and your mouse and keyboard and all these things. That made it way easier to use computers. The second one was the touch interface, and made it much, much more intuitive, because it's sort of now you didn't need to learn as much. You could just tap things. Like you didn't need to learn how to use mouse or keyboard and so on. I think there's now a new interface sort of in the making here. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's clear to me that it's going to be multimodal in some sense, right? The interesting thing, if you think about these revolutions, things have gotten more and more natural, like meeting people closer and closer to where they are. And I think there's something now closer where interfaces will, the interface will sort of learn you rather than you learning the interface. And I think it's both something kind of deeper around personalization, but a lot of it is the way we interact with each other is probably the model for how it will feel interacting to AIs. I think that's really the core to what's changing.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's maybe weird to us to think, but text is very unnatural. It's like a super recent phenomenon that you would be interacting with anything using text, but spoken language and gestures and things, they've been around for all of our evolution, so they're so much more ingrained in what we do. And how is OpenAI building towards that right now? What are you guys doing?
I mean, a lot of it is really pushing this multimodality of our models. So, when you guys started when you started playing with GPT-4, you could only use text, but pretty quickly you could start adding images. And now, I think about a year ago, we enabled the voice capabilities in our models. And so, a lot of our work is just enabling more and more of those capabilities, making them better, and then making it available to everybody so that they can start figuring out what. I actually think that there would be, maybe it's a sort of a core primitive of user interfaces, but there would be a lot of different kind of user interfaces here that people will build with these sort of tools that we're giving them. So I think first and foremost, I think we are tool makers at OpenAI. We build the tools for others to build great products like you guys are. In some way, that's the most leveraged thing we can do, because we're really good at one thing, which is building the models. But building products, I mean, there's so many more people that are way better than us at building products, and really enabling all these people to build products is what we like the most. So those are the two things. I think making the models good and making them available for people to build on.
Nice. And what do you think, Anton? What do you think is the future of human-computer interaction?
I think it's going to be quite simple, really, at some point, where you get your iPhone, and then Apple has pre-shipped AI, and then you talk to your AI to communicate with other humans or communicate with AI. And I think, as you say, voice is going to be key, and it's going to display the information to you, like based on what you ask for. I think so one thing I'm excited about, part of what we're building in our product. I know you're also building it in your product, maybe you as well. Is like some of the most interesting products of the last decade have been starting to hyper-personalize the experience. So if you take, like, there's so many hours, I don't know if you want to say wasted every day, or like where humans just keep scrolling on the phone because it's our personalization algorithm is so extremely good, and we haven't done almost anything on that with the large language models and like the new generation of. So that's an old generation of AI, right? And then we have a new generation of AI that is not personalized yet, and I think that's going to start coming to play in this type of interface. You just talk to your phone. And I don't know what's going to happen, but it feels like a bit scary by looking at how much impact all of this very simple TikTok algorithm is, and if you can fuse that together with like almost superhuman intelligence. So it's hard to predict, but something in those lines.
Nice, but I guess one thing that's different here, or why I'm less scared of it at least, is that ChatGPT is a paid product. It's a product you pay to use and you love to use it. So you don't have the same incentive to just drive mindless engagement for ads, but rather you want people to love interacting with ChatGPT. And to me, that seems to make the difference between this mindless TikTok, Facebook thing.
I mean, it's definitely something that we have done very intentionally when we built ChatGPT. Is that once you introduce ads and so on, like the incentives change quite a bit. That's not to say that I think we would never kind of do that. I think there are places where it could make sense, but it's a very delicate thing to do, because you suddenly, I mean, your users are not stupid. They know who is paying you, right? Like, is it them or is it like some advertiser, like some other third party? So I think it's really, really important to be kind of careful with that, and ultimately, for us, it's like, what we've learned is that the more we kind of just give to our free users, the more people like learn how to use AI, and the more willing they become to just pay and get even more of it. So it's like, it's kind of interesting how all the incentives kind of line up for just building a good product that way. It's sort of like, actually give as much as possible in the free plan, and then people just want more of it, and then they will upgrade, and we get more money, so we can invest it in the product, and it becomes a really nice flywheel.
Yeah, very nice. I think the way we think about it at Tandem is we want people to think about their computers less. The computer should just be something that's in the background, that's been taken care of. In the doctor context, we want you to focus on the patient, focus on making a diagnosis, and the computer just provides you with the right information at the right time and records the right information at the right time. I think it's going to be similar in many other industries as well. Like, I should think less about my phone. My phone tells me when I need to know something and records the information around me.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you put it like, well, what's next for Tandem? What are you building?
Yeah, so we have this medical scribe product right now, which helps clinicians after the patient interaction make all of their medical notes, which is by far their biggest problem. But we're now expanding that into be a fully fledged medical secretary. So then, like I just said, it should be the sense that there's an incredibly accurate, fast, competent medical assistant sitting at your computer, just taking care of everything that has to do with the computer. So you can be fully present in the room and get all the right information you need at the right time.
Yeah, there's something. There's definitely something missing in AI today, which I think is probably still a year or two away, which is, if you want something that's really ambient and really natural, not only does it need to listen, but it needs to know kind of when to interject and like kind of think about things in the background, sort of like, you know, if you talk about a certain topic, like, hey, maybe I should go off and research this thing and come back with some information, even though you don't ask for it and so on. I think right now, probably one of the biggest limitations with AI is it's very transactional. Like, you ask for something, you get something back. And I think it would be a much better user interface is something that's like way more proactive, like a good friend who thinks about, like, maybe Oliver once, he mentioned to me last week that he he's feeling a little bit nervous about this event that's happening. Maybe I should, take him to the spa or something. Stuff like that. Like I think that's the AI we all want.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I talk to ChatGPT almost every day, like the voice mode, but it's such a boring person to talk to because it has no initiative of its own and no idea. It never wants to change your mind. It's just mindlessly answering what you're saying.
It's sort of like, what were you doing while I was sleeping, AI? Maybe reading through all the emails. It's like the whole her thing, right? Like maybe it's talking to like 1,000 other AIs.
Very close to the movie Her here. So moving on to the next topic here, obviously OpenAI is constantly increasing the capabilities of its models and its programs, and at the same time there is so many AI startups building different things on top of these models, and with every release that OpenAI does, like a dozen of them are killed, or probably a lot more than a dozen. How should one think about building product in such an environment? So what should a startup build? Where are you safe from OpenAI's future updates?
Yeah, we've been getting that question for a long time. And the truth is that I think there are really good startups being built at every point in the models, because like really what happens is that I think every capability increase in the models enables a new set of use cases that kind of enables a new set of companies to be created. And a lot of them just kind of then continue growing from there, and they grow extremely quickly, like Anton's company. Like it's sort of like, and I think that we'll see this more and more in every domain. And I think it's not that different from building any business in that if you're not doing something that's sort of differentiated or great, then you're going to be outcompeted by a lot of other startups. In fact, like we already have AGI. It's just all of you guys, like you're all AGI. You're just not A. You're just the general intelligence. And there's competition all the time. That doesn't mean that you can't create a good business because there are AGIs around in some sense. And it's all about just focusing on the core things, like build a great product, really understand your users, figure out how to what differentiators are, and that varies in every business. It can be the very basic things like brand. It can be things like integrations that are hard to do and so on. But I think at the core, it's really about understanding the users. And usually what we see for the companies that don't make it in those capability upgrades, they do one of two mistakes. One, they just build something that's a little bit too generic in some sense, and they don't really look at what their users are, and they try to kind of build, essentially something that becomes the ChatGPT clone, and that never works out because obviously that's where we're gonna focus on. And the other mistake is just kind of not really going deep with the users. Like they don't take the time to really understand them. And I think in every case where people really understand their users, it all works out.
Interesting, and I'm curious to hear about you, Anton, because obviously, how do you build a product now that you can build a Lovable clone very fast?
Cannot build a Lovable clone very fast, but
I meant as in you can use Lovable to build a clone of the other product very fast.
Lovable clone, I see, yeah.
A clone with Lovable.
Makes sense. I think it's an interesting question. Like, how do you build something differentiated once we have true AGI, where you will be able to ask, make me a better, cheaper version of Tandem's product, or that's a hardware product, right? Then we're still going to be being the same situation as we're now. Then the AGI is going to be starting to execute, but Tandem also has AGI, so it's just normal competition. I think I can talk a bit as a very, very concrete example about how our product works a bit and why. How you can build something that is differentiated. So if you're building a full stack application, like software application, then what you can do is to just do what I did 2 years ago with a GPT engineer CLI, which is to call an LLM and ask it like, oh, build this full stack web application. What's going to happen is that the AI is going to have seen all of these different ways of doing things, and then it's going to pick one, and then it might work, it might not work. What we're done in our case is to be like the CTO for all our customers and take a lot of the architectural decisions. And I think we're not done yet. There are many more difficult architectural decisions to pick so that the AI has like the right degrees of freedoms, so it can build flexible things, but it will like deploy seamlessly with one click, and you will have all of the like features that you expect if you are like working as a normal software engineer. And by being this opinionated, by like not saying like, oh, it can do anything, like, oh, there's an OpenAI Codex product that is more like it works with any code base, then we can like really focus. And if you are ambitious enough about the type of talent that you're bringing in, you can just say like, we're going to build the best product in the world for this use case. And I think that's the healthy way to think about it. What's most exciting. If you're not like, we're going to build best product in the world in this use case, you can also be good at other things. Like how do you, first of all, understand users, and then communicate to your users about like exactly the pain you're solving for them specifically, if it's in a niche sector or so.
Actually, I want to double click because I think what Anton said is actually very insightful and very fundamental in the way to think about this. This is this idea of like, all the tools. It is true in some sense that it gets easier to build. Any product today will be very easy to build a couple of years from now, but when the project started now, like those teams will have adopted all those tools and accelerated way beyond where they are today, right? We are all on this exponential, which means that if you're on an exponential, then you're also exponentially going to be moving faster than anybody who started kind of a little bit after you. And I think this is like the thing to really think about. Like right now, it's all about like finding these like what are the capabilities of the model today? What use cases do they unlock? Get going on that problem. Really learn how to do the user, and don't worry about people catching being able to build that same product like a year or two from now. They probably will, but at that point, you will have accelerated so much with your product. You will have a much better product. You will have reached a much bigger user base, and in some way that becomes your moat, right? Like it's just the velocity at which you're running. And I think that's really key to all the businesses that are building in the time we're in right now.
I think one additional kind of very clear moat that we have here at Tandem is just trying to find an industry where the cost of development or cost of building a tech startup doesn't lie in writing the code, but rather it lies in something else. And for us, it's building medical devices. Mm-hmm. I mean, the cost of building a medical device, writing the code, is quite quick. I'm sure a talented team can do it in a few weeks. But the cost lies in the clinical studies and the follow-up and ensuring quality over time. And so that means kind of if you stay in an industry where you have this kind of natural moat, even though the cost of code has gone down a lot. Cool, but Anton, you touched on a topic that I'd love to hear more about. We're potentially approaching AGI here. Very curious to hear about what you think, Peter. Are we actually approaching that, and what does product look like in the post-AGI world?
What our product looks like, or
what does product in general look like in the post-AGI world?
Very interesting thing. So can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
For you. So I think what we're approaching is that products kind of self-improve thanks to AI, and like how we think about it is that you build, so all the, I think humans generally, they really like to build, like all of us, I think, do here. And if you build your company or a product and then a company on Lovable, what will you as a human will guide it with product taste, but then there are many things to improve. There's like infinite things to improve once you've built the product, right? And AI can be very good if you constrain it to like come up with a hypothesis on how to improve a product, do the improvements, and then A/B test them. And I think this is like this pattern of AI being connected in the entire product loop of what are some good ideas? Maybe you listen to user feedback from all your emails, whatever you're getting, and then implement them and A/B test them and test them with users is like what's going to happen. And then what's going to happen is that all the products, software products that we interact with are going to feel magical and like lovable products. So I think that's where we're steering towards. And yeah, that was the question. I will keep.
That's a really good answer. I think generally, like, you know, the whole concept of AGI is a weird one, and I think even like at OpenAI, we keep on like being updated on what it really means. We think it means something, and then we go on for a year, and like our definition changes a little bit because it's an amorphous concept. But like it's sort of a little bit like you know it when you see it, but it's a vision that you can still kind of point a vector of progress towards. And I think that's really the important thing, way to think about it, because the truth is that we're going to reach like superhuman capabilities in different areas at different points in time, and they're just the number of such areas are just kind of accelerating. The number of such areas are that are being unlocked are increasing every year. I mean, now it's like, you know, in some areas, like the machines are way better at coding than humans. Some areas they're not, and so on. But I do think, actually, you know, similar to what Anton said, I'm extremely optimistic about the future of like product building once we have AGI, because if you think about like I feel like oftentimes some of the best like almost all the best products are usually built by really small teams, because when you have a really small team, you can be way more opinionated, and usually it's done by people who really, really care. And what eventually dilutes products is that the teams grow very big. Like most of the product teams spend more time on like management, organization, all that crap, right? And that's what destroys the product eventually. Because like there's like not enough people that really, really care about the product, and the people who really cared about the product, they're spending their time on things they don't really like doing. And as we have more AGI, you know, that just enables people to continue focusing on the building. And that's going to be great for everything. So we're just going to see amazing products in every area of our lives.
And presumably at OpenAI you have tooling internally that's ahead of what you're releasing externally. So I'm very curious, how do you see that happening at OpenAI? How do you ensure that like you have those people that really care and you have as few of them as possible?
So first of all, I would say that I don't think we have like a set of magical tools. Like we tend to release things very quickly to actually get it out in the world. I think, you know, the model will like sit internally before we release it. That if I look back, it's probably on the order of like, you know, 2 to 3 months, and that's the longest. Usually it's like way, way shorter than that. And the reason is like we really want to get it out and start learning and so on. We need to usually we need to make sure that there's some kind of checks and balances on it, but otherwise like we try to really get it out as quickly as possible. But I mean, generally OpenAI is a very bottoms-up company. It's not like, you know, me or somebody else kind of sitting and saying like, here's the thing we're going to be working on. It's way more like, you know, teams finding a problem to solve, and like then enabling a lot of it, like giving people a lot of agency to solve those problems. So you feel like, you know, if you care about the problem, you can just go and do it. We try to just kind of reduce friction for that. We try to remove barriers, and I think that's like the only way you can really do things, product development at scale, and still be fast. And if you're not fast, right, in this time, you're doomed. Like, so it's sort of that's the only way to survive, I think.
Can I just comment on something about the AGI? It's like, ooh, like everything is going to be magically solved like computers thing. I think how intelligence development kind of works is that there are many different dimensions that you can be intelligent, and they like exponentially increase or like sigmoidally increase sometimes, so they kind of it starts slowing down once it becomes more difficult to increase. And some of these shows to be much more difficult to increase, and it seems to me like there will be for a very, very long time some of these things that humans will be much better at than AI, while AI is better than us in like literally almost everything else. And then your job as a human is going to be those things, right? That the humans are better at than AI. On the question of like the product in the age of AI, we're still not seeing like a great way to have AI generalize outside of like things that have happened into the past where it's been trained on. It's been improving a lot now, but it's still not a clear way to how to do that really well. And if you take product strategy, like product strategy has to adapt to how the world looks like right now. And that's always changing. It's kind of changing faster and faster. So it seems like something where humans are going to be very important for a long time. And then the example where AI actually cannot be better than humans, which is very fun for building products, is what do humans want? And you, like as a product manager, that is kind of your job to figure out, right? By talking to users and also by just having really good taste for like what I know how humans work. But in a way, like I think AI is going to be very hard to figure out. So I'm just saying this because it's so many people that are like, oh, this crazy AI thing, how's the world going to look like? It's not, in many ways, it's not going to look so different. It's just like changing towards a future where it maybe at some point looks very different.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, calculators, spreadsheets, they all made some form of human computing ability obsolete, but now it's just covering more, but still not all. Nice. So something I'd love to hear a bit more about is war stories, because you guys have been through a lot. I'd love to hear what was it like fall 2022 at OpenAI? Kind of what was going on?
I think once ChatGPT blew up, one of the hardest times we ever had at the company was probably those like 6 months after ChatGPT, and the reason was basically because we ran out of GPUs, and it's like a terrible place to be in where you have like because two things happened. Like ChatGPT took off, so we had like immense pressure on people just signing up, and we had to kind of create like the equivalent of like the Twitter, fail whale, and like it became sort of a little bit of a joke that like you wanted to use ChatGPT and you couldn't use it. You would just get some vanilla page, and it was really painful because like a lot of like really disappointed users. At the same time, we had all our API users, and suddenly with ChatGPT, it really made so many more people interested in AI, and they found out about our API, and so they started building on our API. But we didn't have enough GPUs to provide for our API customers, and so our API customers started growing like crazy, and they started complaining to us like, "Hey guys, why can't you serve us? Like, why are you rate limiting us?" And so everybody just hated us for like 6 months. So like we were trying all these tricks of like, sometimes there would even be people coming to the OpenAI office and ask like, can you just give me some more rate limit? I just need like 10,000 more requests per hour or whatever. It was completely crazy. And I remember actually being super annoyed because I had this conversation with our finance team earlier in the year. It was like we were like buying GPUs. I was like, don't worry, we'll figure something out. We're going to use all these GPUs. But it's like, no, it's going to be reckless to spend that much money on GPUs. But come on, if you believe in AGI, we'll get it. Like, we will use all those GPUs. And of course, it turned out that we had like 10x less in GPUs than we needed that year. But I think that's like, and I don't think we're like completely out of this, right? Like all these businesses are growing so quickly. It's like an ongoing kind of, war story in some sense. It's like, how like maybe like the things have shifted now. Like a lot of our research team is like being annoyed that we don't have enough GPUs. It's sort of like, why are we spending all these GPUs on our customers? We need more GPUs so we can create better models for our customers. It's just like that is like I think the big bottleneck of our times is just the amount of GPUs.
Did you buy NVIDIA stock at the time?
So the funny thing is that when we had the first investment from Microsoft, we got an email from our lawyer saying like, you're not allowed to buy NVIDIA stock. nobody at OpenAI got rich from buying NVIDIA stock.
All right, I think there's other values that have been created there.
Yeah.
And what about you, Anton? It must have been an intense winter, spring, summer. Any war stories?
Yeah, sure. Like, it was fun when we launched Lovable in late November. We were like, okay, that would like as a launch is like you post it on Product Hunt or something, and that didn't make a big splash. And we were like all obsessing about the product, and we always have like that has to be core. And I think we have like a Slack channel where we could see like how many people were subscribing, and it was increasing in how many people were subscribing. I was thinking after launch, like it comes a bit of more traffic. Maybe it will slow down after launch. But we were in our offices in like this co-working space, and every day was like, it's not stopping, it's growing more and more. So we were like, just, okay, we can do all these super smart things to make the AI more reliable, which is the core of what we're doing. And we post on Twitter about it. I mean, we just kept doing that, and like we grow faster and faster, like $1 million in ARR super fast, 4 million, 10 million. And we kind of thought like, this is crazy, like when is this going to end? And it still hasn't. I think we're just at the sub 1% human adoption rate, and we're building for the 99% of the world who doesn't know how to code. But that's been our life since November. Like some of the war stories are, of course, like when something breaks, and then every time it's like, oh my God, what's happening? And then in retrospect, you thought like, oh, we should have just realized it was this thing. We like when we took down GitHub, or they said we were breaking some terms of services, which was just that someone on call woke up in the middle of the night and their cluster was like having too much traffic, and they removed Lovable. We were calling like, how do I reach someone at GitHub? They're all sleeping in San Francisco. Then some engineers were like, we have to find a way to remove GitHub as a dependency for storing the code base, and scramble something together in a few hours, and that made it work. So that's like one of the many of those exciting stories when you're seeing hypergrowth.
I think the common theme of all like these stories is always like people don't sleep for months. It's like, that's just like life when things really, really work. And it's like both the most like terrible time of your life and the most glorious time of your life.
Yeah,
we sleep. Important.
Very cool. All right. I'm sure there are lots of people who want to ask questions to us. So I'd love to open up the floor for questions from the audience. So Artin, you will handing out the microphone.
Thank you. And I'm going to take the chance to steal one question. That's okay. The question is for you, Peter. You talked about the new interface and the fact that we might have the very transactional models where we just have a one-sided conversation. Who would be best positioned to flip that and teach the AI when to ping you at the optimal time? Because we're thinking about that problem now as a clinician myself. When should the software ping the user without being a distraction, without providing information I didn't ask for? So enabling that two-way interface. Is that something OpenAI is working on with some reinforcement learning, or is that something that us as product builders should be working on?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the answer is both, because it's an unsolved problem. Of course, we will try to figure out how to do it. Like, I think, and it's like really two problems. It's sort of a deep level of personalization to your point. Like, how do you know when to not, like, when to say something in a way that's not annoying? But the second thing is to really kind of do all the background processing and so on. I think that's another problem that needs to be solved. Those both are hard problems, and we'll kind of chip away at them. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if it changes a lot with context. Maybe if you're at work and you're a clinician, it's actually a different set of things you need to think about. Like, there's a patient in the room. That's not a good time to kind of bring up, an idea about a different patient. It can be a bit awkward. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to think through this. And I think at the end of the day, there's no like magical algorithm for these things. it's a lot of like tuning, and so like and tuning it for your specific application. You can already start doing that today because, again, as I said before, like usually you don't have like very much like the models you have are more or less the models that we have.
Thank you.
This conversation was super cool, so I wanted to say that first. I want to double click on sort of hyper personalization, right? I think with, for example, ChatGPT, you have something like memory that stores, for me as a user, I have everything in context. But I've been a Lovable user since I think, I don't know, September. I harassed Anton and Christian to get access, but also Tandem. Like for every single user, there's going to be, how can it improve for me, for every doctor or every Lovable user as a CTO? I think I'm sort of trying to understand what are the roadblocks to get there, because ChatGPT has some kind of memory, which solves as a proxy for it, but it's not a true proxy because it's not personalized for me. It's trying to remember something which I've stored, for example. Do you have any thoughts on how to solve for it, probably in the short term, or what you guys are thinking about?
I don't know, to be honest, but I feel like it has to be done at some point in the model layer, that you have like the huge neural network, and then a part of it, the component of it is like it knows you deeply, just like your friend knows me. Like a part of my brain is like wired to how my wife works, right? And like that's the type of approach you'll need at some point, I imagine. But today, and that's going to take some model, right? There's so much you can do by being smart about how agentic chains work. Like you do many small LLM calls or like RAG calls, and then you feed it into a context that is fed to a smart large language model. And I would recommend experimenting with that if you're curious.
Yeah, there's always like two pieces to it. It's sort of like there's the algorithm and there's like the implementation. And I think that the algorithm right now is pretty unknown. It's a research question. The implementation probably doesn't matter too much. You know, there's advanced things that you can do probably by fine-tuning models and so on, but you could also probably just put things in the context and so on. Like at the end of the day, almost anything you can fine-tune the model to do, like a revision, one or two model revisions later, you can put it in the context to get the same result. So I think it's really about finding the algorithm. And as I said, it's an open research question, and it's like, I think the tools are there for anybody to just start tinkering with it. Because I kind of feel like, my sense, this is speculation, but my sense is it's not like a silver bullet. Like probably evolution created something for us that is a bit messy, but it was like built over billions of years. And whatever we come up with is going to be like tuned to humans. And so it's also going to be pretty messy, unfortunately. So, but it's also kind of a good thing, because then it's anybody's kind of adventure to try to find it.
I think one advantage we have at Tandem in terms of personalization is that we know our users incredibly well from a professional standpoint. Because we know you are a psychiatrist in the Gothenburg region, then we can pull out the specific guidelines for psychiatry in the Gothenburg region, and that goes a very long way towards personalization.
Thank you.
Thank you. So both of you, Peter and Anton, touched on the capacity problem with the GPU and with GitHub. So what is your strategy to secure the capacity? We all know that your products, all of you, are lovable products, and at the end there is a capacity limit. And how do you work with the strategy? Thank you.
We're currently hogging all the GPUs we can get. They're out of T-Force in Stockholm, in Sweden. We're taking all of them, we're not letting go.
I think this is a question. Like we work with different providers of large language models, and it's always like I push my team like, hey, you know, the outcome we want is as much the quota rate limits as possible. So like, don't give anything up in terms of like data access or similar until we have a clear like negotiation there. So it's fun that it's a like negotiation, like with anything you negotiate, and you have it top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, man, Jensen must be living his life right now. It's everybody wants to be his friend, I mean, we at OpenAI we have a very talented team that just like finds stuff everywhere, like buys up, power, electricity, land, and GPUs, and builds data centers. There's no cheat code here. You just have to kind of grind and get everything you can, and fight. Like we want that power plant. No, we're willing to pay this much. So it's all just doing the work.
Can I have a follow-up question? Did you try to use AI to kind of figure out if you can optimize the operations so that you can decrease in the GPUs or other resources? Is it a way to try to? Yeah.
We do stuff like that actually. I don't think we've talked about any specifics publicly, but we are using our models quite a bit for these sort of things nowadays. And it works really, really well.
Oh, yeah, so I think a question to all of you. Sorry. We've been working in the AI computer vision space for the past 8 years, so we're really happy about the progress of OpenAI. That has changed our market, not because we're actually using your system, but because it changed the perspective of all our customers, which is retail stores and managers and airports and malls. But since pivoting and changing fast is important, what are the biggest milestones within the following 3 to 6 or 12 months? What's the biggest challenge you're working on at the moment?
I mean, for us, I think it's really, this year has really been one of agentic capabilities. I think it started for us with deep research and operator, and then codex, and then now ChatGPT agent. It's really focusing on the reliability of that, because I think the truth is that agentic stuff it's good enough today for where you can get value out of it in some areas, and a lot of it other areas is not reliable enough. So that's a huge focus for us. And the other big focus is multimodality, just making the models easier to talk to, more natural, making them kind of just understand context much better. Obviously, there's always ongoing work around can we decrease inference costs that we can then pass those down to our customers? Can we make the models faster and so on? That's always happening. But I think agents and multimodality are the big ones that we're focusing on.
Well, I want to ask two topics. How many people here have tried MCPs or know what MCPs are? Okay, it's most of the people. And how many people have tried Lovable, the product? There are a lot of hands missing. I'm in shock. So MCPs are this way of letting a large language model application connect to any type of API that's out there. So we have support. We haven't launched this. We have support for going into Lovable and letting it have access to all my WhatsApp messages or my emails, and a lot of other things like ordering on Uber on my behalf. And it opens up so many interesting opportunities to be able to ask the LLM, check all my friends I should reach out to, and have I gotten any interesting feedback about our product or so on. And we could add those. We could all of these integrations are open for us to add into the product. But there's a lot of questions as a follow up on that. Can we make those integrations work really well? On the topic of understanding your users, are users going to find this integration sufficiently useful and sufficiently reliable, which is an AI problem? And even if we can make it reliable to do what the user wants to do, should we do that right now? So this building out the integrations so that Lovable can do so many more things is one of the things that are absolutely top of mind for us. And very related to this is actually AI opens up so many new ways to build applications, and our tool today builds we're talking about building the last piece of software, but more near term letting users build 95% of all SaaS products, which is logging in, database AI features and some of those things. That's 95% of all SaaS. But there's many like SaaS products now are becoming agentic, and in turn have access to all of these integrations, which is like very interesting. Like ChatGPT also has access to a lot of these integrations, and we want to enable users to build the next generation of valuable software applications. So those are the two things, like all the integrations and enabling the users to build new type of agentic applications.
Nice. And for us at Tandem, it's going from an administrative tool to a medical tool. So that means going from administering care that's already been done to actually assisting and helping the doctors perform care. And we think this is a generational challenge because LLMs are really the only way we're going to be able to provide cheaper and better care in the future. And so being the company that's able to shape how LLMs provide care, I think is immensely exciting. There? I think we have there are many here. Let's go for brown, green shirt over there.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for a great chat. And I have a question in terms of like, historically, one way to prove that you care is putting down the time to, write a personalized letter when applying for a job, or writing a note, writing a poem. Those are all things that people surely have used ChatGPT to do, and like a lot of exams or stuff like this is. So I guess my question is, like, as these things are becoming easier and easier to do, or as you could have an AI clone join a meeting instead of you, how do you think about allowing people to show the proof of the work of doing things, and like actually showing in the time that they put in that they care about the situation, especially if you have an assistant that goes through and like pings you with, this is your friend's birthday, you should send them a happy birthday card, and by the way, I can do that for you.
Well, I think is that proof of work is changing because what the work is changing. So while before in a coding interview you might be asked to make a lot of code, now that is completely uninteresting. Rather, you want to test how someone is able to reason about product and find out what to build. And so I think it's more about like what work is changing, and therefore what proof of work is changing, and we're going to have to adapt how we interview based on that.
Maybe I didn't understand the question. Was it about like what information you should give to the human? Or,
yeah, so in terms of...
How to know if it's good, useful. Sorry, how to know if it's useful information.
Yeah, so like how do you evaluate like people, but both like from a professional standpoint, but also in terms of how do you actually share, like how do you actually show someone that you love them in terms of like sending a happy birthday card when the happy birthday card was not you ordering it, it was actually ordered for you, and you don't have to like write the personalized letter for applying for a job, rather that was written for you, and so you can get a personalized card that looks like someone has actually put in the work to know about what it is like working at Lovable, for example, but they never put in the time, and like, yeah. I
love this topic. What's going to happen is that proof of being human and like putting in human work is going to be a big topic. And in some way, it always has been like, if you get a cold email, you're like completely discard it because it's obviously automated. But if you get a handwritten email with like a thoughtful gift that's sent to you personally, it's clearly that wasn't done by automations. Maybe soon AI can do that, and then you need to be more creative in terms of like what only humans can do.
I think this is like just pervasive in everything, right? Like it's sort of, I think there's always value put at purely human things. It's sort of like you can buy something factory made, or you buy the same thing handmade. Like if you want to buy like a piece, like a, I don't know, nice glassware or something, you buy cheap things at IKEA, or you can buy it when it's handmade because it's like more important to you. I think it's it's as anything, it's sort of the proof will just change based on what it is. I don't think it's really I don't think AI really changes much of that. It's just the underlying thing that changes. I mean, you have to remember, so computers was once humans. You know, it's a term of a name of usually the women who were working and doing the calculations back in the day. And now they're just, if at some point they got replaced by machines.
All right, we got time for 2 more questions. I think green shirt there was fastest. Maybe I have a bias towards green shirts. I don't know.
Thanks. I'm happy about wearing green shirt today. But yeah, thanks for organizing this, and it's lovely to hear all of your thoughts. My question is about hiring. Now that product and engineering is merging like never before, and as Peter mentioned before that, it's like having lean team and going fast and getting things done and to see what is needed. What have been your learnings when it comes to hiring your team and building a team which is making you all successful?
I mean, for us at Tandem, there's 2 skills that we still think are very important. The first one is hiring engineers that care about products and solving problems for the users rather than any specific technology. And then 2, who are smart and can go deep enough technically, such that when the models can perform the task, they can actually go in, debug, understand, and solve the problem.
Okay, I'll add something here. Like, I'm happy to come to work and hear that. Like, I left this like super fancy job and I joined Lovable, and it's just such a step up because people here really care so much about how we're doing, how we work as a team, our users, like, through dedication and everyone's well-being. And I like to talk to people and understand if they like will be on the same level of pushing the bar on caring a lot about what we're building together. So that's it. And apart from that, it's just like hire people who are good at many things, because in the age of AI, you should be able to do, you're like super powered because you can do many things if you can manage an AI to help you, and you need to have good judgment as a human.
Yeah, I think the things that I see kind of work like best is deep technical skills. Doesn't always mean that people have like a technical background, but they kind of built the technical skills. Usually it's like founded in very high level of curiosity and ability to learn quickly. And then the second thing is just a huge bias towards agency and just doing things. Because at the end of the day, in a small company, like there's so many things to kind of work on, and you just need people who just like, oh, here's a problem, let me just go solve it. And I think then maybe like the third one is then having some taste in how to prepare, like which problem to pick is always good. That's usually harder to test for, but you sort of look at what people have done in the past. But I think the two first things kind of matter even more, like just like going and doing things and being able to do it.
Very much agree. Cool. Let's do the last question here in the front.
Thank you so much. My name is Emma. I have one question for you, Anton, and I have one question for you, Peter. So starting with a question to Anton, you mentioned doom scrolling before, and the way that we've built products that ultimately, in this case, has just wasted hours of human lives. How do you think about friction and building in friction that is useful to the user and the way that we use the product? Yeah, I think that's a good way of setting it. And I'll also ask you, Peter, a question straight away so that you can think about it a little bit before you get to answer. I'm wondering how you're balancing the way of building a product for national security interests, so building for the US government, with global expansion. Thank you.
Interesting questions. So doom scrolling, like I hope Lovable doesn't waste people's time, and because it's like this creative effort, unlike doom scrolling. but I think what we should really start doing in terms of like users using technology, humans using technology, is to answer the question like, is the user using this because they're like just you're kind of making something click in their subconscious, like I just have to do more, I have to do more, or is this something that if you would come back in one day and ask, were you happy you spent time on this? And then just optimize the entire user experience, friction being one part of it, so that you're doing the things, so that humans do the things that they're like, I'm so happy I did that thing. I'm so happy I got out there and used my creativity to build something meaningful for other humans, for example. And what's amazing is, like, so parents kind of do this for their kids, right? They look at what they're doing and then they see like, okay, actually, they didn't feel this was very meaningful. I'm going to nudge them to do the meaningful things. And thanks to AI, I think we have an opportunity to build this into, like, to every product company, to build this into how they work and how they optimize their entire products towards letting users do meaningful things. That's my idea.
I guess in my case, for how we balance kind of building some things for the government or national security and everybody else, I think the honest answer is I don't think we think about that as a different thing very much, right? Like, we're just here to build a good product, and we have customers in different countries. Some of them are governments, some of them are companies, some of them are individuals, and so the focus is really building a great experience for everyone, and it's a fairly universal tool, so it becomes useful in so many different tasks that you're doing, and then each of those customers usually have some special requirements when it comes to maybe the way the data is treated. For example, like, a doctor needs HIPAA compliance, and a company might need a certain level of ownership of their data and so on for legal reasons and so on. And that's really where the difference comes in. And I don't think that, there's lots of teams working on those, but I don't think it's that is maybe not the primary thing we go in and think about every day. It's really about how do we just make the overall product better.
I think that's a fantastic note to end on. Thank you very much, everyone, for showing up and for, engaging with this, I think, immensely interesting topic in this time of great change. So after this, we've got pizzas, we got wraps, we got more beers, so everyone is free to stay and mingle and talk about products. Thank you very much.
Oliver, can I just ask you one final thing? Do you have any call to actions for people here in this room?
Yeah, at Tandem, as we've said, we're solving this generational challenge of building medical LLMs. LLMs that are going to be providing care for you and for your loved ones only a few years down the line. So if you're interested in ensuring that these LLM-based products are going to have the absolute highest quality and deliver the most value to our system, come join us. We have lots of open roles. We're looking for great engineers, great salespeople, great product people. So you can find them online.
Awesome. I just want to say, I think you said something interesting here with like how exponentials work if you're building a startup. And AGI is approaching, and like now is really the time, if you're building a technology, to think about like what's the most ambitious, crazy thing I could build, and find a way to work on that. And like as you open with Per-Jörgen, this is such an exciting time. Like, I'm sure Per-Jörgen has money for you to invest in your startup if you want to build a startup. Let's see what we can do. But yeah, and if you want to do something crazy ambitious, like build this AI version of yourself as a software engineer and ship really fast out to production and work in a team that is really fun to work with, you can talk to, maybe I have some colleagues, Vlad in the blue t-shirt here after this, and Fabian in the green t-shirt. Thanks for giving me the option to say this as well. But this is such a fun time to be building in Stockholm, and I'm so happy so many people are here.
Cool. I think the only thing we disagree on is what is the most interesting challenge.
Wait, what was the
Do you want to say something at the
Oh,
end?
I want to say something. Wait. I'm not going to make it a recruiting pitch. I just want to say thank you all for coming here, and thanks for this wonderful chat.
All right, thank you very much again.